Hello, this is Shawn, Digital Learning Coach for Union County. We're going to be doing a rundown of Google Drive. This is an update, kind of going through and catching some of the graphical changes that have taken place and some of the newer features that have been added into Drive. So we'll jump right into this. And I'm going to be hitting on different things. Now, naturally, we could navigate to Drive by just typing in drive.google.com. Or I can actually, anytime I'm in Google Suite Products, I can do the waffle off at the top right. So if I click this little waffle icon, you will find Drive. Now, it might not appear in the same spot as mine because you can't actually move these pieces around, but we're going to go into Drive. Now, when you first get in, depending on how you have your view set up, any folders you have will appear first, and then any additional documents. So first, let's look at how we can change the layout a little bit. So I'm going to go over here to the gearbox at the top right, and we're going to go into settings. So first thing I have checked is convert uploaded files to Google. So this just helps really save space. Any Google Suite product doesn't take up space in your Google Drive, so you don't have to worry about how much storage is being used. You'll notice mine's 38.9. We'll circle back to what's actually eating up my drive space. But I have that checked, and I also have working offline. This just makes sure that there's certain files that if the internet goes out, I'm not going to have any issues with picking that document back up and working with it. And then when Wi-Fi finally gets going again, I'll have it saved automatically. You can change your density about how much space you are taking up as far as visibility. But then there's the other suggested thing. Now, I don't have make priority, and this priorities is a relatively new feature. A lot of people, a lot of teachers I know don't utilize that, but we'll hit on that later. But you can make that your home page, and I'll show you what that actually does. Your notifications, you can change those, but we are looking at the different layouts, and that is one of the options. The other option is this guy right here, and this is the list view. And so you can change that to actually have it run through and turn around and sort by different dates that you've modified it, or the file name. You could sort it that way, or the grid view. And you can change this based on each folder. The view detail is very handy. So if I have a document right here, I can look and see who last created it, modified it. I can add additional description to it. I can look at the activity on the page and see who made a copy. Sorry, I made a copy of that at this time. So really nice tool that gets overlooked, especially if you're trying to look and see, well, who just made a change to this, or where's this document even stored at, coming from. You can actually click that. So very handy. I would definitely check out that little piece. So let's look at actually working in here. So this ideally would take place of any hard storage that you're doing. So storing things in cloud-based. This has been very handy for us in IT and the education world, because if a computer messes up and you've been working out of the cloud, you're not losing a single document, and you should be able to work pretty much 90% out of your cloud space, and it worked very well for you. So if I need to create a folder, I just right click, so I click up here to new, and I can do a file type or folder upload, or I can just go ahead and create a new folder. So I'm going to create a new sample folder. And so here he is, and I can start adding things in. So I can drag files from my desktop in, or I can upload. So I can go over here to file upload, and I can click a picture. Let's just do this thing. And so that's just going to upload that one picture. I can do the same thing with files. I can do a whole folder and pick a whole folder to upload and bring that into my drive. Now, what if this badges folder is something I'm going to be using a lot of, and I don't want to have to be in my drive and then trying to find it if this starting to pile up? How can I get to it quickly? Well, you could always just type in the word and find the folder that way, which is probably this one. I got more than one. I can think, all right, I know the root file, but I do the phrase sample a lot, so I might not find it very quickly that way. So how we're actually going to find that is going to be, all right, I know it's here. I'm going to right click this folder and I'm going to add a star to it. So what that does is it kind of makes it as a favorites. It's almost bookmarks it. So if I come in here to my starred file, I now have that folder that'll appear right here. I can find it much faster this way. And so these are documents that I use more frequently that I'm always kind of going back to. And at any point in time, I can be like, you know what? I haven't used that in a while. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to remove the star and take it off my favorites list. And so it just helps in that navigation. Other things you can do to kind of help you find things a little faster, I can add a color to it. So that sample folder right here, I can right click and I can change color and say, all right, I'm gonna make that this purpley. And so that's gonna help navigate. Another thing that a lot of people don't know you could do is I'm going to rename this and I can actually, I'm gonna hit Windows key and period. I can actually put emojis in this. And I can actually navigate through and say, you know what, I'm gonna add this little sick face emoji to it, and that's just gonna help that stand out a little bit more. And if I put it in the front, it actually changes the alphabetical order that's gonna go off of. So it's gonna read the, a lot of times it'll either read it first or it'll read it last, depending on what you're viewing it out of. But that's gonna help me visually find that a little faster too. So that's just a neat little trick that I can do to kind of help navigate these and find these things a little faster. This search tool though, it is really handy. So like I said, we were searching for samples earlier, but I can come over here and say, well, what am I actually looking for? What type is this? Well, that's going to be a folder. And if I know the owner, well, that's owned by me, I can actually search a little faster. And so here's all my sample folders. Like I said, I use the word sample a lot, so it comes up frequently. But there's my #1 search right there. So just adding this little drop down, it's more of an advanced search. And so you can navigate a little faster and work a little quicker on there. See, I could have added that starred and probably got it down to just my one file. Apparently I can't. But a nice little feature to kind of navigate through. So now I'm going to look at priority because we kind of skipped over that. Priority works off of these workspaces. And so this is a way of like grouping. It's kind of like files, but grouping a folder together to where you can kind of navigate quickly. So kind of think of this as a folder and I'm already seeing inside of it. This is a folder and I'm already seeing inside of it. And so I can go back to that badges and be like, all right, well, there's this file. I want to right click. I can actually add that to a workspace. And so now I'm going to put that in. We'll just throw it in my Chromebook inventory. So now in priorities, when I look, I've got that file in there right there. I actually click the view workspace and it bring it up and I can add additional files. I can come here and say, you know what, I don't need that in the workspace anymore. So you can actually remove that off of there. I thought you could. Oh, there it is, remove from workspace. So really easy way of taking care of that. So now what about files in here that I want other people to have access to? So I can right click and do the share, or if I just click the file, I can come up here and say share. And this is where we can actually start adding different people in. I can search for them directly. I can copy a link and share a link out. Now, right now, I'm logged into our schools. So if I want somebody outside the school, I'm going to have to change that. So I want to change by clicking that and then going to anyone with a link. And I want to make sure they aren't editors. I wouldn't care if they were a commenter, but I want them to be viewer only. And the nice thing is things like PDFs, you can actually have someone actually be a commenter on there and they can add comments to the PDF and make suggestions for you to go back and edit and change. So really handy there. So while I'm still in this badge, we talked about just adding files by uploading. We also can immediately create a Google Doc here, sheets, slides, forms, And there's this more that gets overlooked, and this is where we get into some of the other tools that we have. I use drawings quite a bit. I use Google Sites. And then there's these other things. Now, you might be looking at this list and be like, I don't have all these other options. If I go back to that gearbox again and go to the settings, manage apps, this is where a lot of those. And these are just different things that I've added on over the course of 3-4 years, however long I've been working out of Drive. And you can actually have these where they're disconnected from your drive, or you make them as your default thing. So you might go through and look and see which of these tools you want that you already have connected to, and you can change how they are viewed. So anytime I open a PDF, you could actually make that the default player is Kami instead. So that is an option for you. I would say like 90% of the times I talk to teachers and I see them, they'll be working on a new tab and they'll just come here and they'll do open up a new Google Doc. Well, that's just dropping it loosely in my drive. Navigating to a folder and then saying new and then saying I'm going to create a doc, that puts it directly in the folder that you just had open. And so it helps organize and keep you together a little better. Because I know a lot of times I'll name it, but I'll go back and I'll look at my drive. My drive is just full of stuff that are just new blank documents that I've started. And I don't know, this helps keep that in check. So working out of the folder you're about to put something in just really helps that. Last thing I want to talk about is this share drive. This used to be called team drives. Now, share drive is a folder that you and someone else, a group of people, have the exact same level of ownership for the most part. So they're welcome to edit a document, add a document, delete a document, and that's going to be tied directly. So this is a shared workspace. This isn't yours personally. This is put into a group pot. And so you got a lot of hands in the pot and you don't want that, then you need to be working out of my drive. If this is a project thing where you know a bunch of people are going to be touching it frequently and you want that to be happening, then this is where shared drives come in handy. So this is a very useful tool when you're definitely wanting to work with other groups and share information out, provide different things. You just have to watch in what level of authority people have. You can have it where people are view only and share only to this level, but most of the time this is going to be something that if you're putting it here, you're okay with them having editing rights to it. So that's the difference in share drive and my drive, and like I said, you can work to different levels out of that. I did say I was going to circle back to storage. So we saw that in the gearbox, but I can look at it right here as well. If you click this, mine, I think most of them default into sorting by what's taking up the most space. So I'm working off 38 gigs, but I also, almost 39. I also had that button clicked where it's converting. So why is it taking up so much space? I do a lot of videos. These are all DVDs that have been ISO'd. So these are actually like collections of larger math videos, and then there's individual. So you see the difference in a 2 gig file and a 700 and something file. These are over the course things that have been kind of dropped in, and they take up a little bit more space. But from here I can actually navigate through and be like, well, I don't need this anymore. I can actually start removing these files and clearing up space if I need to. So option to kind of keep you a little bit more cleaned up, so just keep that in mind. And I think that's all I have for you today. There's definitely like different tools you can look at, like previewing and placing files in multiple folders. We can get into all those on a later time, but this is pretty much the nuts and bolts of Google Drive and kind of navigating through. I know I went through very quickly, but feel free to watch again, rewind, pause. I will kind of go through and time code these so you can look underneath the video in the description and navigate and jump around that way. But thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate you. But that is all I have. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Please click the like button and subscribe so you can stay up to date on any future videos.